12th Planning Commission meeting to order.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll call the roll. Uriah Bishop.
Here.
Ralph Carson.
Here.
Philip Jefferson.
Here.
Jihan Hodges.
Here.
Ben Mills.
Here.
Sherry Phillips.
Here.
Michael Voyland.
Here.
That's 7 members present.
Okay, thank you so much. Our invocation, Ms. Hodges.
Good evening, everyone. As we gather here tonight, let us take a moment to pause and reflect on the importance of our work, not just as planners, but as stewards of our community. Our decisions have the power to shape the spaces where our neighbors live, work, and connect, impacting the quality of life for all residents. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, a reminder that true community wellness goes beyond physical structures and infrastructure. It also is about fostering environments that support emotional, mental, and social well-being. In our planning, let us be mindful of the impact our decisions have on the mental health and quality of our residents. May we create spaces that are not only functional, but also welcoming. Parks that invite relaxation, neighborhoods that promote connection, and services that provide support to those who need it. May we recognize that our decisions can help build a community where all residents feel safe, supported, and valued. Let our discussions tonight be guided by empathy, understanding, and a commitment to inclusivity. Let us listen with open minds, speak with respect, and work together to build a future that reflects the values and needs of everyone we serve. Finally, we would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to Jeff Triesenberg on the recent passing of his mother. Our thoughts are with him and his family during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hodges. It's time for our adoption of our agenda. Are there any items that need to be adjusted, Mr. Walter Story?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda as written?
I'll make a motion
Thank you, Ms.
to accept.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bourne. We have a motion and a second for
There's a
adoption.
motion on the floor to adopt the agenda. I'll call the vote. Uriah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
All right.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Jihan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Sherry Phillips.
Aye.
Michael Voyland.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted.
Thank you so much. Next on our agenda are our meeting minutes from our April 14th Planning Commission meeting. Are there any items that need to be revised or updated as you see them, Commission? And if none, do we have a motion to approve our meeting minutes from April 14th?
I'll make that motion.
Mr.
I'll
Bourne,
second.
thank you. Okay, Mr. Carson is a second.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. I'll call the vote. Uriah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
All right.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Jihan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Abstain.
Sherry Phillips.
Aye.
Michael Voyland.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Thank you so much. Old and new business, we have one item on our agenda this evening, CZMP 24004, 5828 Renmore Pines.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the public. I am Erin Joseph. I will provide an overview of this rezoning case. The applicant is here this evening as well and has prepared a presentation for this evening. Okay, so this is a Tier 2 rezoning request. It includes a master plan as well as a list of written conditions. The applicant, Worth Mills of Longleaf Law Partners, has submitted the request on behalf of the property owners, requesting to rezone 2.56 acres from residential 2, R2, to residential 8, R8 conditional, for the development of 75 single-family detached units and 12 single-family attached units or townhomes. The site is located within our ETJ. It's in the southeastern region of the town of Garner, and it's generally located on the northeast corner of New Bethel Church Road and Clifford Road. To provide some context to the zoning, the current zoning Residential 2 is intended for low-density, single-family residential homes. It encourages high-quality development with open space protection. Currently, this site is vacant. The site consists of 2 parcels, so it's vacant and also has a single-family home on the site. The site is also located within the Lower Swift Creek Conservation Overlay District, which limits single-family residential to no more than 30% of impervious and 50% of impervious surface area for multifamily, which includes townhomes. Within the area, there is a mix of R2, R4 conditional, and RA zoning districts. This area has undergone an increase in development with several projects either under construction or in review with the town. The site is not located within an activity center, but you do have 2 activity centers, one to the northeast with the Neighborhood Activity Center at White Oak Road, and then you have another activity center, the Neighborhood Activity Center at Benson Road. Of course, this this area and community consists of a mixture of vacant tracts, single-family neighborhoods, and a few remaining agricultural tracts. Since 2015, this area has been transitioning from low-density rural agriculture to suburban developments and densities. So the proposal for this rezoning is for R8 conditional. The applicant has narrowed the possible uses to 2 out of 18, which includes the single-family detached and the townhomes, which would be 3 to 4 units per structure. Collectively, it will include a maximum of 87 dwelling units. And to further break that number down, you have 16 60-wide front-loaded lots, 36 45 with front-loaded lots, 23 45 with front-loaded lots, 23 45 with rear-loaded lots, and 12 26 wide front-loaded townhomes. I won't go through the entire list of conditions, but just to highlight what the applicant is proposing. So they have established specific guidelines within their conditions that address site design, architectural standards, and open space recreation within the development. So regarding site design, they have capped a maximum density with no more than 87 dwelling units. It's pedestrian connectivity. There are 2 pedestrian connection points from Clifford Road. On-street parking, homes that front on the open space here on the screen, and also a berm that is located along Clifford Road and New Bethel Church Road. Regarding architectural standards, the applicant is committing to a variety of front elevations for the detached homes and the townhomes, specific building materials, roofing, size of porches, windows, and garage features, and also a varied color palette for detached homes and the townhomes. There are 3 active open space areas identified within the proposal. The active space open 1 is designated as a common green and includes seating, a pollinator garden, a conversation pit, and a play lawn. Within active open space 2 and 3, it includes a playground and a fitness park. And passive open space includes preservation of natural areas such as the wetlands and Neuse River buffer areas. On the screen, you have the master plan. You'll see that the site where the 60-foot wide lots, the larger lots within the development, is located here in the purple. And then you have the 45 with lots that are front-loaded here to the northern boundary. And then you have the 45 rear-loaded, 45 in width, rear-loaded, single-family homes. And then just here in the blue, you have the townhomes, which are 26-foot wide lots, and they are front-loaded. There's a stormwater control measure. There's one stormwater control measure within the development. This area comprises the active open space 1 that I mentioned earlier with the play lawn, the conversation pit, and with the 6 homes that front onto the open space, as well as one of the pedestrian connection points from Clifford Road. Here you have active space 2, which will include the playground area and playground seating. And then the third is where the fitness park is proposed. Again, just to break down the details of the site, it's 25.68 acres. There are 4 different housing types, 60-foot wide lots, 45 with wide lots, and 45 with lots that are rear loaded, and 12 26 wide front loaded townhomes. 2.5 acres of open space is required. 25% of the open space must be active. They've provided about a little over 3 acres of active open space. And there's a combination of conservation and recreation space. The conservation, again, includes the riparian buffer areas and conservation buffers, and then the recreation with amenities, pedestrian trails, and qualifying open areas. The site is not within the watershed protection area, but it is subject to water quality, nitrogen, and quantity requirements. Again, one stormwater control measure. The water utilities, the water will connect from an existing 16-inch line from Clifford Road and New Bethel Road, and the sewer will connect from the adjacent subdivision of Harper's Landing. You see that on the screen here in green, the 8-inch sewer line and the 16-inch water line. A TIA was conducted for this proposal. It was conducted in June of 2024. Based on early assumptions of a maximum of 130 dwelling units, the expected trips on average were expected to be 1,104 trips, with peak hours, AM peak hours at 20 trips in, 58 trips out. Within the PM peak hours, it was expected to generate 61 trips in and 38 trips out. The figure on the screen shows the 2029 future build-out lane configuration, as well as NCDOT's recommended right turn lane at site access 2. It's a little bit hard, but that's a right turn lane. And then there is a dedicated left turn lane into the site of 100 feet of storage. And although the density and the unit count has decreased, the recommendations remain the same regardless of the decreased density. The staff has prepared a analysis of the transportation concerns that have been within this area. And so tonight we'll provide an update from the earlier analysis of the adequacy of area future road network, predominantly the Hebron Church Road and the White Oak Road and Benson Road. So there is capacity, 4,447 more trips beyond this project within the study area. The study area is highlighted in this red shaded area, with build out south of Clifford Road and Guy Roads. And there should have travelway capacity as long as densities do not exceed current averages. So White Oak Road and Benson Road are over capacity and have been for at least 20 years or more due to traffic originating from outside of the town of Garner. So the analysis that was conducted by staff, it is not an intersection or a level of service analysis. It is another data point to check where the town is internally to the area. And so 10% was taken off the top capacity of 36,600 trips that are traversing between this area. The existing is as of September 2023, so this 35% here. Nearly 2,000 built dwelling units within the study area. There is a historical vacancy rate that was applied at 7.5%. There are 8.04 trips per dwelling units, which suggests Garner's trip generation is a little lower than the national ITE rates. And that number does include the external high school traffic. So an estimated 585 dwelling units until the theoretical capacity is reached. Remaining largely unbuilt, you have areas at the end of Wren Road, Gentle Rain, Wren Road here, Gentle Rain Drive, the end of New Bethel Church Road, east of 40, which will likely be well and septic developments. Bryan Lands, which is south of New Bethel Road, Starks Land, which is east of Hebron Church Road, and in pre-planning, and also considerations for potential redevelopment, such as the Oregon Trail or the J.S. Buffalo Estate, which is near the Oregon Trail, and the Wynn Road area. Regards to environmental and cultural resources, there were no significant environmental or cultural features on the site. Again, the site is within the Lower Swift Creek Management Area. Again, that limits residential development to 30% of built upon area and limits multifamily to 50%. So there were 271 properties and occupants notified for the neighborhood meeting. There were 2 meetings conducted with the applicant and adjacent properties and occupants. One was held May 9th of last year, and then there was a meeting on March 3rd of this year. 15 attendees were at the first meeting, 10 at the second meeting. Again, the site is not within an activity center. The neighborhood area character typology is what the site is located within, and it is a level 2 area to strengthen from our comprehensive land use plan. As staff evaluated this proposal with our comprehensive plan, considering the framework consistency, there were 17 growth framework criteria evaluated. They received a fairly strong consistency rating of the 17. 16 were strongly consistent and 1 modestly consistent. In reviewing the land use and community character consistency, 29 criteria were determined to be applicable or possible to meaningfully address. It received overall favorable support with a notable portion demonstrating strong upward consistency. There was 1 strong non-support due to the lack of a commitment to Green Street solutions. And overall, again, if there's always opportunities for continued fine tuning. And so in response to this evaluation tool and continued input from this evening and from the public, staff will be able to support even stronger, or at least, maintain a strong overall finding of consistency. You do have that full detailed consistency in your staff report. The public hearing was held on April 15th. There were several comments that stem from the public hearing. From council, there was a comment regarding the staff presented traffic analysis, and there was a request to recalculate the numbers based upon NCDOT's numbers and traffic flows onto the main access road to South Garner. Comment on the information, again, regarding the traffic analysis and the numbers being the most current numbers. There was a comment noting the lack of commercial within the area, and also tying that back to the high trip generation. There was just clarifying question about the active open space number 3, the colors of the home. So, more about the proposed development itself, why the R8 zoning district was chosen. There was concern with the tax valuation of the home products. And a clarifying question regarding the number of uses and reduction in the density, particularly for the townhomes, and a question regarding the TIA and road improvements. But overall, these were clarifying questions and comment from council to evaluate the traffic analysis presented by staff. And so this evening, I've prepared a draft consistency statement for your review. As I stated, the applicant is here this evening and would like to present to you as well their proposal. The highlighted option indicates the results of staff's analysis, that it is consistent and recommend approval. Staff has prepared a recommended consistency statement and motion to recommend approval. So the next steps in this process will be to Planning Commission to determine findings of plan consistency and a recommendation to council recommending approval or denial of this case, and then back to town council for findings of reasonableness and a decision to approve or deny the request. You have the proposal. I'll leave that on the screen if there are any questions. This concludes my presentation, but I am here to answer any questions regarding the staff report or any questions you may have. And as stated, the applicant is here as well and would like to provide some information to you this evening.
Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
Yes.
Mr. Bowling?
Yes, our notes indicate that there are 4 stormwater control measures. Did something happen recently to knock it down to 1?
No, it's always been 1. Let me see, that could have been an oversight.
It's under stormwater notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an oversight. For some reason, it listed it as 4, but there's just 1. So they haven't reduced any stormwater control measures. I'll make sure to update that in the staff report.
Second question, the anchor formation, or that upside down T in green on the map, was that selected for any particular reason in the design?
This open space area here,
Yeah.
I'll let the applicant speak to that because that was their determination to put, to have the design of that open space. So they can speak more to why it's there.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I have one real fast. Does Garner's transportation plan call out the cross sections for New Bethel Church Road or Clifford Glen Road or whatever?
Let me check. Jeff, you want to answer? Or?
So we don't call out, to my knowledge, in our plan, we don't call out specific cross sections, but we do coordinate with DOT on their plans for the MTP, and then we have cross sections that fulfill what's in the MTP. So New Bethel Church and most roads in that area at most are going to be some kind of 2-lane divided facility, but mostly with probably a center turn lane or at least dedicated lefts and rights wherever there needs to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Mills, any other questions for staff? If none, we will hear from our applicant. Please, when you come forward, please state your name and your address associated with you, and so that we have that for the record. And your affiliation.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners. I am the attorney representing D.R. Horton on this matter. My address is 4509 Creedmoor Road, Suite 302 in Raleigh, 27612. As I said, I'm here on behalf of D.R. Horton, who is the contract purchaser and proposed developer of these two properties. I'm joined by Ann Oakley and Madison Lee with D.R. Horton. Also joining us are Ben Williams, our lead engineer with Priest Craven and Associates, and Nate Boquin, our traffic engineer with McAdams Engineering. Aaron did a great job on the staff presentation, so we will try not to be repetitive. But just to give a high-level overview of our request, the two parcels, 1600 and 1612 Clifford Road, are just over 25 acres. 1600 has a single-family home, 1612 is vacant. Currently zoned R2 within the Lower Swift Creek Overlay District and within the ETJ. We are proposing to rezone to R8 conditional zoning. This would be annexed into town of Garner limits during plat review. And our proposal is for 87 total homes, 75 single-family homes and 12 townhomes. And one theme that I think you'll hear throughout our presentation is that even though there are only two home types or two uses that we are proposing, we're trying to create enough variety within those home types in order to meet the needs of a large swath of Garner's population, and trying to provide a type of home that again meets the unique needs for again a variety of individuals, whether it's a young family looking for a starter home, all the way to an older couple who may be looking to downsize into a single-story dwelling unit. So again, our two parcels plus one dwelling unit today, our two current zoning with the Lower Swift Creek Overlay District attached. Harper's Landing is immediately to our southeast. You have South Garner High School. Further east, Magnolia Park subdivision is to our northwest, and the Clifford Grove subdivision is to our north. Here's a look at the street view of Clifford and of New Bethel Church Road. Both road frontages currently do not have curb and gutter, nor do they have sidewalk. Current zoning for our property, again, is R2, which is a low-density single-family district. But within this exhibit here, there are a variety of zoning districts within our area, within close proximity to us, ranging from RA to even CMX. And there is a large R8 conditional use zoning district east of us along Clifford Road at the Hebron Church Road intersection. Aaron touched on this a little bit with regard to the character typology map, but did want to go over some of those policies. So again, this is designated as neighborhoods, which calls for a mix of housing types, anything from single family homes to apartments. And I think importantly, it recommends different home types within a single development, which is really key for what D.R. Horton is trying to accomplish here. So we think we've done a good job of being consistent with the character typology map. As far as the development and intensity change map go, this area is an area to strengthen, which essentially means the town likes the type of development that is occurring in this area and wants to see a similar type of development continued for new projects. And within this area, it is predominantly a single-family detached product type, but there are some townhomes, some recently built townhomes in this area as well. And so when extrapolating that and comparing it to our application and our development, a majority of these homes would be single-family detached, but we are providing 12 townhomes as well to provide some of that product variety. So I think we've really done a good job here as well of taking what is around us and incorporating that into a single project. I did want to also speak to the history of this master plan and how we've arrived at the current layout. This is the initial layout that we shared with neighbors at our pre-submittal meeting and the first iteration that we submitted to the town. This plan called for 121 homes, 53 single-family detached, and 68 townhomes. And in this plan, we had single-family detached with townhomes in the interior. Now, when we met with the neighbors and we met with stakeholders at the town, there were some primary takeaways that we received. One was to ensure that this project would be adequately parked. Through the changes that we've made since then, our parking spaces per home have increased by 23%. A big item of concern for neighbors at the outset was to research the impacts of traffic along Clifford and New Bethel Church Road. Nate Boquin performed a TIA during that initial review with staff. As we have lowered the unit count, it's been determined that we did not even meet the threshold for performing a TIA at the rezoning stage, but it's been very helpful to kind of plan out with the town and be able to tell neighbors, exactly kind of what those impacts should be. Additionally, we've been working with NC.DOT to reduce the speed limit on Clifford Road from 45 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour. And we are installing upwards of 3,000 feet of curb gutter sidewalk and that center turn lane along both roadways. Number 3, we were to reevaluate the number of proposed townhomes. Neighbors and town council members wanted to see less townhomes have the predominant building type be single family. And again, from that initial 68 townhome development, today's plan proposes 12. So we've reduced the number of townhomes by 83% from that initial proposal, and now single family detached is the predominant building type. And 4th, it was to include homes with first floor master bedrooms to accommodate Garner's senior population. One of the big changes that we've made there is in the single story cottage rear loaded type, which you'll see in pale yellow on the screen shortly. But even with other building types proposed, approximately 75% of the homes that D.R. Horton is planning to build here would have a master bedroom on the first floor. And so again, this is our updated master plan, 87 homes, which includes 75 single family homes and 12 townhomes. I'm going to have Ben Williams, our lead engineer, just come up and give a high level overview of some of the key features within this master plan.
Hey, good evening. My name is Ben Williams. I'm with Priest Craven and Associates. We're at 3803B Computer Drive, Suite 104. That's in Raleigh. Aaron has already gone over the layout, and Worth has given you many details, so I won't waste much of your time on going through this. I will be available to answer any of your questions, but I did want to touch on a couple of things. The site has a significant amount of roadway frontage. New Bethel and Clifford, it amounts to, as Worth had noted, 3,000 linear feet of widening. We understand that cross-section to be 2-lane divided with bike lanes and sidewalks. So with our development, we will complete that cross-section across the frontage. We have significantly more frontage than many of the developments that have gone in here with a much smaller amount of units. The internal, also wanted to note that internally we've got about 1.5 miles of sidewalk on both sides of the street. We've got increased sidewalk sizes internally to connect all of the open spaces internally. And I just want to touch briefly on the key that was brought up earlier. If you go back to our original layout, one of the ideas with this initially was to try to set up some cottage type homes. These were townhomes at the time, but that front on open space, and they're served by rear alleys. We like the concept a lot, but we also met a lot of comments as we tried to engage the town with this layout, and it was clear that we wanted to have more single-family detached and not as many townhomes. So we tried to keep that idea with some of that cottage product facing the open space, and that's how that's the origin of it. Okay. And now, Ann or Worth?
Here's a couple of the open space details as well. Active Open Space 3, which was the exercise park on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you see the sort of common open space, that Open Space 1 in the heart of the site with the cottage product homes fronting there with a sort of a pedestrian path that runs the length of it with connections for each of those homes. Active Open Space 2, which is our playground area in the southern edge of the site. And then again, on the right-hand side here is one of the pedestrian connections that we're offering from the active open space to Clifford Road. So trying to give folks multiple ways, whether it be by car, by bike, or by foot, and multiple ways to get out as well. Following our public hearing, we met with Aaron to try to further increase our consistency with the applicable town policies. The 3 conditions that we have discussed and are continuing to finalize with planning. One is a payment to be made, a financial contribution to the White Oak Road, Bryan Road corridor impact area. Pulte Home Company and the town of Garner entered into a development agreement in 2022 in connection with Pulte's 400-plus home project within the White Oak Road corridor. We are within that impact area and are drafting a condition to enshrine our commitment to paying for our share of the traffic that we send into the corridor area. The second new condition is to commit to double silt fencing along the limits of disturbance adjacent to the Neuse River riparian buffer that's located along our southern boundary line. That fencing would be installed prior to grading and would remain through construction. And lastly, a commitment to replant new trees within Zone 2 of that Neuse River riparian buffer. There is an existing sewer easement that encumbers a portion of Zone 2 on our property, but for all other areas of Zone 2 within our property, we would be planting new trees in that area to further help with runoff and water quality within that stream. And now Ann Oakley with D.R. Horton will come up and walk you through some of the product renderings.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ann Oakley, and I'm a forward planner with D.R. Horton. And I've had the privilege of being on this project since we started on our first submittal, and so I'm really glad to be here before you tonight. What
And
you see,
I'm sorry, your address, just to
oh,
make sure.
sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. Address is 2000 Ariel Center Parkway in Raleigh, North Carolina, Suite 110A.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the reminder.
That's okay.
Cottages are what you see above. We did have a great feedback from our neighborhood meeting on this product. It was what was sitting on that center courtyard. We have 6 units facing open space. These cottages range anywhere from 1,600 and 1,800 square feet. They have 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. They're all 1 story. They do have a 2-car garage, and they do have quite a large 9x10 patio on the back. These are all rear loaded onto an alley. So one of my favorite features of this home is that you can pull into your garage and walk into your kitchen with your groceries. And that is a standard of living that a lot of people strive for. So next, we're going to talk about just hit the right hand. This one. Thank you. These are the largest homes that we're putting on the site. They're a 50-foot wide product. They are over 3,000 square feet. Some have 5 bedrooms. Others have 4. Many of them will have a primary bedroom downstairs. 2-car garages that will be recessed from the front. So this is not a garage forward plan. This is a garage recessed plan. This is what we know for most of us as a traditional architecture. So that going back to that traditional home style. And then moving on. These townhomes can be found today in Varina Gateway and Fuquay Varina, and they are doing very, very well. They live like a single family home. So they are just over 2,400 square feet. They have 4 bedrooms, and they're really probably one of the best selling townhomes that we have, because for folks that don't want to take care of their lawn, don't want that big yard to take care of, this is giving them that same space for their family. And then the last home rendering I want to touch on, this is the 45-foot product that is front loaded. It has a 2-car garage. Home sizes are going to range between 1,700 and 2,300 square feet. These homes have an option between 3 and 4 bedrooms. And you can see that some will be closer to that 1-story. Most of them will be 2-story. But we do have options at the elevation that you see on the left. So there'll be a variety of home elevations, a variety of colors, and that will round out the entire exterior along New Bethel Road and Clipple Road. So before I move on, any questions on the home renderings or information I provided?
I have a question about the townhomes. Are any of the townhomes going to have those first floor master bedrooms, or are those going to just be for the single family homes?
No, so in each building, our exterior are actually primary down and the interior are not. Good question.
And then that last picture that you showed, yeah, this one, is the second floor an open space like over the garage, or is that a dedicated like bedroom, bathroom, or how does that layout look?
Sure. So those windows that you see are actually 2 different bedrooms. But when you come up the stairs in one of these, and we have 4 different elevation types here. So 4 different floor plans, so to speak. But the one that you see up above in the right, it has, it's more like an open loft area. It's like a second living room that's open above your downstairs living room, downstairs kitchen, to where, in my mind, I'm thinking I could put all my kids' toys up there and I wouldn't have to have them in my living room when I have guests over, but
Yeah,
I'm
so
thinking like a mom.
More referring to the one, I guess, on your
Up to
left. Yeah, so is that,
That's the one that has a loft upstairs.
okay, so it is a loft.
Yes, it's not a dedicated bonus room like what I think you're thinking of, and you would find more of that in the larger home product that I showed.
Are the townhomes, it's like we have 4 connected in a group. Are those exactly in this layout? It seems that the facade is pretty much flush. There's no step back.
Our conditions have that variation of roof line and the variation of that. This is a image that we have that was done a couple years ago for Marina Gateway, which is almost sold out, but our conditions do speak to that, yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that this image is just an image example.
It is an image example. We've also committed to a greater color variation in this, so to really be able to notice the difference between the units.
Any other questions at the moment
Yeah.
for this portion or overall?
I have a couple more slides, but I
Okay,
want to make
we'll
sure we
let you
talk about
finish
this
up
because this
and
is important. What the houses look like is very important. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So moving on, we did touch on open spaces earlier, and I had a couple of renderings done so we could really feel like what it's there, like to stand there instead of just look at a flat image. One thing I really wanted to focus on, we had a lot of conversations with staff and with the council members that we were lucky enough to meet with that wanted to make sure that these alleys that we were proposing that were rear loaded, when you're driving down the road, that you're not looking at a blank canvas or just a lot of cars or things that are not really pedestrian friendly. So really wanted to point out that the alleys will be very adequately landscaped. We'll have on the ends of these alleys, we'll have even more landscaping. So when you're looking down that corridor of the alley, you're gonna see a really pretty tree-lined street. And then this is what we were referring to as that fitness park. One of the neat things about this park is it is connected off of New Bethel Road with pedestrian connectivity to that sidewalk. So when folks are right there, I mean, theoretically, yes, this is a property of the HOA in the community, but the public could have access to this from that pedestrian access. You can see a bench swing there in the back that we've committed to as well. And this is outdoor fitness equipment. It's meant to stay outdoors 365. The HOA will maintain it and maintain its integrity and its safety, and then we'll also have the benches there as well. And that's including what we've added another walking path kind of around that fitness area just to give folks just another place to stretch. Leaving the center open, we would refer to that as maybe a yoga lawn. As you see some examples up there, excuse me, but most of the time people just want to stretch when they've done working out. And this is that central park. You have behind the folks in the foreground what we would call that sunken conversation pit or sunken living room, but it's basically recessed into the ground. It has pervious areas in the bottom to allow soil to drain. And it's a nice gathering place for folks to sit and gather. And then in that, that longer lawn that you saw in the picture earlier, they'll have more room to run around. This is our playground, and that blue bicycle that you see there is actually a bicycle rack. We'll have several of those on the exterior and interior. They're a decorative bicycle rack that some people also like to refer to as public art. And we'll use a cantilever style to cover the playground area to limit our impervious and limit our concrete there in the playground. So that's what you see hanging over the picnic area. And then we'll have an area for playground equipment and swings here. And that concludes my presentation. Before I walk away, any questions on open spaces?
I have one question while you're on it. The central green space with the curvilinear sidewalk component, those are the cottages, right?
Yes.
And they're the rear-loaded cottages. So, so technically, you are calling the front in that section. That's the front of the cottage, right? In the back.
Yes, so the front doors will face that green space, and they'll have sidewalks from their front door.
Sidewalks coming from the central sidewalk or sidewalks along?
Let's go back to that
there?
site plan. That'll be more useful. So here, those 6 homes that are facing that trail going through the middle will have sidewalk from their front door to that access.
Okay.
But the gathering pit that you saw is a little further south of that, so not in front of their house, but in that more green open lawn area.
And how wide is that sidewalk? Any idea what that might be?
That's the 6-foot sidewalk we committed to.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for applicants, Mr. Carson?
First, a couple comments. I want to commend you on increasing the number of single-family homes and reducing the townhomes. And as well as 75% of the masters on the first floor for the single families. The garage size at 20 by 20, commend you on that as well. And the facades are architecturally broken up and set back, and I think they look nice. Couple questions regarding the green space. I'll have other questions later. I don't see any dog park.
That's a good question.
Surely
So,
you didn't miss a dog park.
I did not. So that fitness park that is against the edge of Clifford Road.
So AS1, or the north of AS1, I guess it is.
Yep, so the furthest triangle towards Clifford Road, bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
So that was originally planned to be a dog park. And the more conversations that we had with staff and with council members, it was noted that we didn't really have anything there that would be useful to folks walking. So imagine there's a sidewalk all the way around the perimeter of this project. So you're walking up here and you come into that area, they could use that fitness park. They did not see that the dog park was as useful as a fitness park. So because we have a limited amount of open space, that change was actually made last minute because we felt that it would be a greater benefit to the residents living there and to the residents at large in the community. And we also noted that we have a lot of pedestrian sidewalks, we'll have a lot of pet waste stations, and we'll have a lot of yards, so a lot of folks will have the option to fence in their yards. So all of those components together, we did feel like we were gonna have enough pet waste stations in the area, both at the mail kiosk, all common areas, to accommodate dog owners.
I guess that's great when you're walking the dog, but dogs like to run around a little bit too, so, anyway, that's fine. Access to the wet pond, is that on the private drive on New Bethel Church, is that?
I'm gonna let our engineer speak to that.
Okay,
The access to, I don't think we can really zoom in on there very well, but the access to the pond comes down between the playground, which is, I don't know if I.
oh, that little wedge that goes in there by AS2?
I believe that's AS2. Let me look at mine. But yeah, it's between the townhome and, it's between the townhome and AS2.
So what purpose does that drive, the private drive on New Bethel Church serve? That's shown almost directly across from the gaps in the townhomes there between the first four and the next four.
There's an easement there that goes, I need to pull out a sheet I can read. I can see it a lot now.
Because in the southwest, you have your sewer easement, but just north of that, there, it calls for a 20-foot drive, private drive. And it seems to be going in between the first and second set of townhomes.
So between units 83 and 84, there's it's PRDE. It stands for private drainage easement. It's 20 feet wide.
Okay.
It's just the pipes in there.
Okay. Okay, that's the only questions on green space, but I'll follow up with some other questions later.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nate Boquin, traffic engineer with McAdams, address 621 Hillsborough Street in Raleigh. So just wanted to touch real briefly on the traffic study that we completed. So as staff mentioned, we did prepare a TIA. We looked at a total of 8 intersections surrounding the area. With the initial submittal that we made, we were triggering the need for a TIA. But with the updates to the plans that have been covered here previously, we are actually below that threshold now. So it just makes this study that we've completed just a little that much more conservative, but still valid from NCDOT's perspective. At the top of the screen there is just a breakdown of the original trip generation shown in green to our new unit count trip generation in yellow. As you can see, we're roughly 300 trips less for the total daily trip generation. That 815 daily is what we're looking at to determine whether or not it was triggering the need for TI. The town's thresholds, either 1,000 daily or 100 peak hour. We were already under the 100 peak hour, and so the updated density there is below the 1,000 daily as well. That on the bottom of the screen is just a brief overview of the transportation improvements that we were looking at for the project through coordination with NC.DOT and the town. So as you can see, and this was previously covered, the new Bethel Road, Bethel Church Road, excuse me, access is right in, right out, and then our Clifford Road access is lined up with Whitetail Deer Lane with turn lanes at both of those. And then also through coordination with the town, it was presented to us of hey, now that we're kind of finishing up the widening along a decent chunk of Clifford Road, it was requested that we start the conversation with NC.DOT about reducing the speed limit on Clifford Road. So we did start that conversation. DOT has reviewed it, and they've given the preliminary nod of approval. I think there's just some additional coordination that the town engineering department is having with NC.DOT to get that taken care of. But that is looking at being completed as well. So happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding transportation. Otherwise, I'll pass it back over to Worth.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say in summary, I think this project is consistent with the town's policies with regards to development intensity and the building types and the housing types that we're proposing. We're proposing variety within those housing types, both in single family versus townhomes, but even within the single family product, having smaller rear loaded, larger front loaded, just to be able to again attract a wide variety of resident. And so I think for those reasons, this project, this rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest. We appreciate your time this evening, and the entire team is available to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Could I ask?
Yes.
Okay. Could I ask you to put your very, very first cover slide on the picture, the aerial shot?
Let's see. Was it this one?
Yeah. That long wooded arm through the property, that's not the, or is this a very old picture? The reason I ask is that doesn't seem to be the same wooded buffer area that comes up to Harper's Landing, correct?
I think it is an old photo because that's prior to the platting and the construction of Harper's Landing.
Okay, that had me a bit confused. Okay, thank you.
Try and throw
Is that wet, by the way? It's wooded, that arm. Is it wet?
There's a portion of it that's in the Neuse River buffer, and it begins at the Shenandoah River Way, which is the road going into Harper's Landing.
Yeah.
So it's wet from approximately that road as it flows, I guess you would call it south, but to the left of the page. And I will also note that while that buffer that shows up on the aerial is not as substantial today in the field, when we're finished, we will have installed a 45-foot wide buffer to supplement that, the plantings that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you did a good job in terms of the tree work, that you will be saving some and adding some. But I just got confused by that first shot. Thank you.
Okay, we have questions for staff or for our applicant. This is a time for us.
I'll start with, I guess, some traffic questions. Your meeting number one with the public stated that they were going to do the traffic impact analysis, and it may require improvements to address road safety. Now, the first meeting was May 9th. The report, the TIA comes out on June 24th. So were there additional requirements from the date of the meeting of May 9th to the June report? That's the first question. Second question, and I may have missed it in the TIA, but did that TIA recommend a traffic light at Clifford and New Bethel?
Yeah, so when at that first meeting, the TIA had not been completed yet. So through the outcome of that TIA, there were improvements at the driveways. And then we have our frontage widening improvements to widen out to the ultimate section, but no other transportation improvements were triggered. There is a commitment by another development for the traffic signal at that intersection, though, and we are working with that development team to make sure that the signal poles are in the location as much as possible to not be impacted. Otherwise, we would have to move them. And
okay, so the TIA was finalized in June of 2024, and we all know that the traffic patterns have changed quite dramatically since I-540 opened. Has anybody with the town or with the engineer looked at what these traffic pattern changes are doing and how this is going to impact these areas? Because your own statement says that some of these roads have been over capacity for 2 decades or more. You're adding 815 more trips. You're using old data.
so I think that was the overcapacity for 20 years was a statement that the town had indicated.
We provided that information since the public hearing. We were asked to provide additional data about Benson Road and White Oak Road. Honestly, it just, what we're just reporting back to everyone is that it is what it is, and it's been that way for a long time. 540 into and out of this area probably will not have any impact because the only 2 ways into the area are off of White Oak and Benson. So that's kind of where we're at. But we did want to update you with the internal capacity of this area around South Garner High School. So we had done that for a previous project, and so we're just continuing to track that and let you know that we still feel as staff that things are on schedule, so to speak.
So with the 4,500 more trips allowed in that running total, you've already taken off the 815 to get to that new number?
Yes. That 400 and however many is what would be left for anything that we don't have in the pipeline.
And is the 2% annual growth looking ahead through 2029 and beyond, is that realistic for this area, looking at kind of the explosion we've had in traffic and things? Because if you look at the population, I think we're higher than 2%.
Yeah.
And yet that's the number we're using in these figures.
Right. So that number is used for background traffic, which usually implies that there's traffic coming through the area from other places. In this case, it's honestly probably more appropriate to use almost a 0 because there's no traffic coming from anywhere else. If you're coming into this area, you're coming in. If you're going out, you're going out. There's very limited opportunities at this time for through movement. Now, if Ackerman, when such time as that gets connected through, then we may see some growth on Ackerman from other places, because then people could use that instead of going up to Timber Drive. They could come up White Oak or Benson and cut over from one to the other.
My other question and I'm looking at I guess it's the zoning conditions, specifically item number 7, on-street parking for open space. Talks about the development shall provide at least 4 on-street parking spaces directly adjacent to AS1. But AS1 does not show adjacent parking spaces. In your items discussed at meeting number 1 on May 9th, the response was in regards to not providing adequate, or the question was about not providing adequate parking for residents and guests, and they said they're planning on providing a mix of parallel and pull-in. On your street Bs, you're going to have a 12.5-foot lane. Your alleys are going to be much narrower. Where do you see parallel parking anywhere in this conceptual drawing? Because you don't have the lane width. And my next question is, you don't show anything at AS1. You do show 4 spaces at AS2. And I think 4 spaces for all of your green space parking is a little bit inadequate. And you got 1 handicap spot. So can you show me where you would plan on putting the parallel parking for AS1? And I guess that's the first question. You can show me that, and then why there's so few parking spaces.
Certainly. I think we're in agreement that that is a typo. That should say AS2. Those 4 parking spaces are at the mail kiosk. It was that area of the playground was originally labeled as AS1, so that we just need to have that corrected.
All right.
As far as the overall parking within the neighborhood, I'd like to go back to the original layout again. In this situation where we had 120 units, we planned for the public roads within the project to not only be 29 feet wide, which is a requirement of the UDO, but we also planned for additional parking spaces. In this situation, we had a lot of parallel parking. We had a lot of 1-car garage units. I'd say at least half of the product here was 1 car. So in that situation, we felt like it was very important to make sure that Amazon trucks, folks coming to visit, had those opportunities to park. When we changed the product type to what is 90% single family detached, and got away from the townhomes, we made a commitment that all of these units have 2-car garages and will have driveways that can accommodate 2 cars. So per home, we actually increased the amount of parking spaces within the development by about 25%. That's per home. I mean, this doesn't have more parking spaces than the other one. It's just that within this type of development with the product that we're providing, there'll be 4 parking spaces. Jeff, I don't know if you guys count 2-car garages, 2 spaces or not, or just as 1, as some municipalities do, but
Under the old ordinance, it was 2. The new ordinance, so it would just be 1.
So technically, there's a space in the garage that will count towards the UDO requirements. But anyway, you possibly could get 4 cars with the garage and the driveway, and that just seemed to be a better fit for this neighborhood and under this style. And with the 29-foot wide street, that allows for fire and safety to be able to get by with a 25-foot clear section if you're parking on one side of the road. I'm not familiar with the town's requirements as far as what you allow for parking parallel on public streets, but if you're parked on one side, you still have plenty of room for folks to get by.
It's allowed by default until somebody asks for a no parking zone.
Okay.
To be
so
created.
Because your street width, your street B is 29 feet back to back, which is going to give you 25-foot paved, which is 12.5 travel lanes. I like this layout that you have now, but there's not going to be room to park on the street, really anywhere for parallel parking. And if this is going to be under an HOA, you might want to consider just putting no parking on the streets.
And I consider that to be 29 minus 1. The curbs, a half a foot. So I like to think of that as more like 2 14-foot
Yeah,
If
I'm
I-
figuring 20,
right.
24-inch curb, so
Yeah.
29, yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a question, but do you feel that 4 parking spaces for the green space is going to be sufficient?
We didn't think of that park as a destination to drive to. Those were more for the mail kiosk. We're not trying to trick anyone to think that we're using those 4 spaces to park for visitors. That was really just intended for the mail kiosk.
Okay. That's all the questions I have right now.
Okay. Mr. Bowen? Ms. Phillips?
No questions, just comments. I really like the fitness area, and the pedestrian trail, and the little pocket parks. And I also appreciate the images. It helps you kind of visualize what the neighborhood's going to look like. So seeing the different elevations was definitely great. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure this is answered somewhere, but what's the price point for this development? And I guess, do you know the price point or what's Harper's Landing selling for?
Do not have data on Harper's Landing, but I can help provide some information on these products. So I, like most of you, could not have predicted what the prices would be 2 years ago as to what they are today. So I can share what we're doing today and what they're selling for today, knowing that these products won't be built for another 18 months to 2 years. That could change.
Okay.
That caveat being known. So the townhomes are selling today in Fuquay Marina in your high 3s to low 4s. The single family homes are also selling in your mid 4s to high 4s. So those other 45-foot homes ahead. You have your 60-foot homes, so the largest homes on the 60-foot wide lots, those over 3,000 square foot homes are selling out in Sanford in the mid 500s. So here in Wake County, that would equal around 600. Did I miss any of your products? Oh, and your cottages today are selling in Nightdale and in Fuquay Marina, and those are selling in your high 3s to low 4s as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just checking a few quickly for you for Harper's Landing. And it seems to be anywhere from the low 4s to the high 4s.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about the traffic light. Do we know I know it's through another development, but do we know when they're supposed to be adding that?
It's currently under design. When it comes to the traffic signals, it's always subject to DOT's approval on signal warrants.
But do we think it'd be there before construction starts in late 2026?
We're anticipating that it's probably going to be in place before we construct our widening. But again, it's tough to say definitive until DOT does give that nod of approval to go ahead and install it.
That light was triggered by Homestead, which was just
Ms. Hodges, I
approved.
do want to add one thing to that. We are in direct communication with the party that is doing that traffic signal. We've already worked with them on the easements that they'll need on our corner, and we're working in conjunction with them to make sure that our widening and the work that we're doing is in concert with the improvements that they're doing. So we are definitely considering that. Yes, ma'am.
And then I just have a comment, and I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it because I feel like it's important. I do appreciate the first floor master bedrooms, not just when we're thinking about our senior population, but when we're thinking about anybody. Any one of us can have an incident that prevents us from going upstairs, and I've worked in healthcare and have seen that to be very devastating for families, and to the point where they have to consider moving on top of having to deal with this new medical event. So I think that's just something to consider in all developments, and to keep, again, to provide spaces and for our community where they can continue to live and not have to have this added stress. So I do appreciate that.
I still have a question about that central open space with the sidewalk and the cottage front facing. That's an active open space, right? That we're considering that to be active open space.
Yes, so The only thing activated in front of those folks' homes is a trail network that people can walk through. And due diligence wise, anyone who buys those parcels would know that ahead of time. Most certainly they would be shown this. But that is the only activated area. Below that is more of an open green space. And that whole area is a central green, I believe. Aaron and Jeff, I'm referring to the right. Central green is your UDO and comp plan term. Common green, thank you, ma'am. And so that whole area together makes one pedestrian connection. That's the activity in that area. It's not more active than that, other than that conversation gathering area.
I think my quandary is the sidewalk and its placement. The centralizing sidewalk begins to separate the softscape, which then doesn't provide an open green space for use in that centralizing component. And that's why I asked the question about how do you get into the unit from the green space, from that green space, because now the active surface or the green space that you could use is really on the left and right of the walkway.
The pedestrian.
And then in between the sidewalks getting to the unit. So in some ways, it makes the most sense that the circulation route occurs on the boundary so that the green space and softscape happens in the centralizing core of the green space so that it actually is used or useful, can be planted, can be used for sitting. So that's, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a horrible concern. It's just a question of how we use that space.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's something that can, I don't know how much, I don't know what that distance really is from house to house or from face of stoop to face of stoop. But you might consider how to make that really more active, useful. And if it is able to be used like it is, then so shall it be. But when we say open, kind of active green space, the centralizing core is what's really used, and we circulate around it. But I like the idea of it. It makes sense. If it was wider, then the circulating walkway would still have large open space on the left and right to be able to be used as open active space. So
You really, to speak to your point, I hate to interrupt you, but that was exactly what we envisioned here, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And in transitioning to single family, that did change a little bit and narrow that view. But yes, your perspective is exactly what our first initial thoughts were.
Mm-hmm. So, as you finalize that, maybe there are some slight adjustments to make that more useful, functional. And if not, then it's really designating kind of a front yard component to each of the cottages that's not really theirs, but something to think about. I do have some concern about the parking. Guests, where do they really place their car? And is the driveway really sufficient for a car to be placed when there's also a sidewalk, right? Does that car extend into the sidewalk? And Mr. Carson's comment was, I think, very prevalent that, if that's not really able to provide a parallel parking option on one side, then there may be the need to say there is no street parking. Just one thing to make sure that your residents have they're paying for a house and they're paying for access. And I always have problems with this, that I paid $500,000 for a house and I can't have a guest visit and park on the street. And that's just something to think about. But I do have a concern about that. I'm not saying it's a no-go, no-go, but I don't know if there's any other way to solve it.
I was just going to note that the front setbacks are 25 feet, so there will be plenty of room on the driveway outside of the public sidewalk for cars to park.
Okay. That makes that very helpful.
I've got a question for staff. Somewhere in these documents, I had read that the developers agreed to annex this to the town of Garner, but I do not see that in the zoning conditions section of dated March 31st. Is that They're still agreeing to be annexed? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, that's just more of a procedural thing that we incorporate into the rest of the review process.
Okay.
Okay, well, is there any other discussion from us? Any more questions from commission to staff or applicants? Okay, well, to make our discussion more formal, I think it is that time that we either need to make a motion either way to discuss it further.
I'll make a motion that we, the planning commission, find that in the absence of any significant, strong, non-supporting comprehensive plan criteria and a strong level of consistency with the plan's growth framework, this request to rezone from residential 2, that is R2, to residential 8, that is R8, C 319, conditional for the development of 87-lot residential subdivision is consistent with the town's adopted land use plans.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, so before we put on a vote, is there any other discussion or needs on our behalf? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Some officer.
Mr. Voiland, you read the draft consistency statement. Are you stating also that you are the draft motion to recommend approval?
Yes.
Okay. So that's in your staff report, everyone. The draft motion to recommend approval is the motion on the floor brought by Mr. Voiland, seconded by Mr. Carson. And I will call the vote. Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
All right.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Sheehan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Sherry Phillips.
Aye.
Michael Boyland.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you so much. We have passed that motion. Thank you all for providing a typology. I like to call housing typology, and not necessarily product that are diverse, 2-story, 1-story, and hope to give the opportunity for multiple residential options for us. And so we'll keep you to your plan to do things well for our town of Garner. Thank you so much. Reports from our esteemed planning director, who we have not seen.
Yes, I know.
It's okay. It's okay. Good to see you.
I appreciate Aaron and Thomas being able to hold down the fort for a couple of months. But it was a little bit of a crazy time for me with my mother. She was 92. Went to go see her in late April, just before she passed, or late March actually, and then have been going back to Washington State for memorial service and other things. So yeah, just been a little bit of family wrapping up kind of stuff. So
You have our condolences. And
thank you. Yes, so since your last meeting, not a lot of council activity in terms of cases, but Garner 6 Industrial, that project was approved on Guy Road. That may have been a special use permit only, so I'm not sure if y'all had seen that or not, but that was approved. And just a general reminder for you and others as you're talking to folks and people have, development questions, don't be afraid to make sure that they know about the development activity map. We also, Alex recently opened a GIS data portal, so just kind of centralized a bunch of our mapping a little bit better online. So please do check that out and let us know if you have any questions. There are currently some early discussions about 2 possible individual zoning text amendments, which could make their way to you. One is regarding some modifications to the what I call the residential threshold for projects that require a special use permit. There could be some tweaks coming through for your review to look at and input. And then also another possibility could be a text amendment to rescind the R8 zoning district. So just want you to know that those two are being discussed at the council level and that you could be seeing those in the months ahead. Transportation plan, we do anticipate releasing the RFQ around the beginning of June or the end of this month. But we are hoping to get that out before the end of the fiscal year and hopefully solicit some help to update our transportation plan. We've had an internal staff kind of kickoff meeting, just brainstorming about what the plan really needs to cover this time around. Certainly, if you all have any thoughts on that, feel free to give me a ring and I'll be glad to talk about that with you. And there will continue to be, this is just to get the RFQ out. Once we get to actually formalizing a scope, then we'll certainly continue to bring you all into the discussion on that as well. So just want you to be aware that we are trying to get that kicked off here shortly. And then I did want to give, because I'm not sure how much you all have been in the loop. As always, this time of year, the legislature is active. This is the beginning of a 2-year cycle this year. And there are a number of bills that are being batted around, as they always are. Several have made the crossover deadline from one house to the other was this past week, and there are several bills that met that. And there's another one, though, that is still alive by another measure. If you haven't heard about it, I would encourage you to check it out. It is referred to as House Bill 765. There are some rather interesting proposals within there. I think from a planner's perspective, there's some good things, and there's also some things that we kind of raise our eyebrows at. But just to give you an idea of some of the things that are currently in that draft, it does appear to be backed quite heavily by folks like the Home Builders Association and the Realtors Association. But some of the provisions would basically strip local governments from being able to make a lot of decisions, zoning decisions for their local community. The current draft would actually require every residentially zoned property in Garner to be allowed to build 5 dwelling units per acre. So if you had an acre lot, you could build 5 single-family homes or 5 townhomes. It also would require us to allow for a accessory dwelling unit on every residential lot. I think it's 800 up to 800 square feet is the current language. It would require staff in the town to review all rezoning requests within 90 days. It would require staff for us to review all things within 14 days. It would potentially eliminate parking requirements, number, dimension, configuration. It would eliminate pretty much any voluntary conditions. So this back and forth that we have about zoning conditions the bill is trying to clamp down on that and eliminate that altogether. And subdivision approval would purely, on the current draft, be a staff approval only. It could not go to the town council or anyone else. So there's a lot of things in that bill. And I always think that it's good for the public to be aware, and I'm not necessarily so sure that the public is always super aware of some of these things that are in these bills. It is still being debated. It has not made it out of the House yet where it originated. It is going back to the Finance Committee. They kept it alive by inserting a budgetary kind of change as well. So we'll see. We're keeping an eye on it. But there are some others that would potentially freeze ETJ. We are thankful that it appears that the ones that would eliminate ETJ, in which case our 2 ETJ members would no longer be able to be on the commission. But it appears that the one that has the most traction right now for Garner would just freeze the ETJ. So we would keep our existing, but we would not be able to expand if that got passed. There's another bill, House Bill 372, that would loosen some of the home occupation rules. For the most part, I don't think it would change a lot of what we do here in Garner, but it could potentially loosen up a few things that maybe we might be a little more tight on in terms of how much space you're allowed to use for a home occupation, what can be done outside the home versus inside the home. But then Senate Bill 587 is the one that could potentially restore the downzoning. I think we reported to you on that there was a late change in the last legislative session that changed the definition of downzoning, and currently one of our ordinances is null and void because it runs afoul of that downzoning definition. But if Senate Bill 587 would get passed, then that would restore the town's ability to do what it always had done before, and would potentially allow us to keep that ordinance on the books as is. Happy to always talk about any of these things with you. I know Terry is keeping track in our legal department on a lot of this stuff as well. We are doing our best to kind of stay abreast of those that affect our department and development services in general. So yeah, just wanted to make you aware of some of those things as members of the Planning Commission. And again, reach out if you have any questions. And that's all I have.
I very much appreciate you sharing those things. I overlap with a lot of those things in our design community, especially as our building code issues have begun to have adjustments as well. So that will be very important to review. I've heard some of those, but Mr. Voiland.
Jeff, thank you for the development map. If you go on the social media site next door, the number one question is, does anyone know what they're building at X? And being able to simply refer to that has saved a lot of typing on my part. So I do it all the time, and it answers questions because discussions go in all sorts of strange ways when people don't know what they're building where. So
right. Well, good. I'm glad that that's out there and available. It's a quick copy paste.
If any of you have driven by the Bojangles site, you now know it's bow time. Because someone has spray painted it's bow time on the girder, the overhead girder. So
Right.
you know that. And they're making good progress, apparently. For John Hodges, you last gave us an update on the VA from Congresswoman Ross, and I'm just wondering if anything's changed because things have gotten weirder at the VA.
Good evening, Commissioners. We have not heard any update from Congresswoman's office. We did have a meeting with some of the VA leadership about 3 weeks ago just to talk about some logistical issues. At that time, they had not been made aware of anything that was going to cause them to have to delay their opening, but they have also not followed up with us on any particular dates for their opening. So the only thing we know to share with you right now, sorry, I was trying to close it out so it's not constantly there for you, is the generic summer opening that they had told us previously, and I think I had shared that with you, but we don't have any updates for that.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, I had a comment, but thank you very much for sharing those House Bill updates. Will the town have any response, official response, or response from the planning department, or maybe through legal on some of these issues? Because some of them, just as you read them off, are kind of concerning, especially on House Bill 765. So is there anything that'll come from?
So I can share with you that the town produces a legislative agenda at least at the beginning of each biennial session. So we did that this year, generically talking about things that we're in support of. And we often reference the North Carolina League of Municipalities because they develop a legislative agenda that's voted on by the membership. And that's sort of our overall overarching body that we work with on legislative affairs. So our initial draft of our legislative agenda simply said that we're supporting the goals of the League of Municipalities, and we are opposing anything that limits towns' abilities to make good planning decisions. And also, to Mr. Jefferson's point, we oppose anything that tampers with and delays the implementation of the most current building codes, because North Carolina is woefully behind in doing that. I could be here all night talking about that. Mr. Jefferson could probably help me with it. But that was what we led off with. And then as things come about, we then amend it to have specific things that we're opposed to. And there were so many bills this time. We added some general opposition statements, but we specifically called out House Bill 765 and noted some of the reasons that we were coming out in opposition to it. There were some changes made, I think, in committee last week to the bill, so we're sort of waiting to see what pieces will get pulled out. But as Jeff mentioned, the maneuver of adding a financial element to it so it could get included in the budget could cause any one element sort of that bill. It does not have to necessarily go in whole as currently written. So it's a strategy to be able to pull parts of that. But our main opposition is that we've shared that with our legislative representatives. I know some of our neighboring communities will actually adopt a resolution in support of or in opposition of. And I think for our council, we felt like there were so many particular things that we would have to mention, or parts of things that were good and parts bad. We didn't recommend to council of taking that type of action for this session.
That's really good to hear.
Sir?
That's good to hear that our other municipalities along with us are making these statements and making it clear how this is impacting their communities.
And since we're having this discussion, I'll be glad to forward you our most current legislative agenda, just because it does provide some additional bullet points of some of the things that Jeff mentioned. So I'll share that with you.
That'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up. And I'll also share what Mr. Boland said about our map, our interactive map. I shared that with one of our neighbors who's very, very aware of GIS applications from his work. And he was also trying to figure out what's going on where. And he said it was the best interactive GIS portal that he has ever worked with.
Oh.
So kudos.
I'll pass it along to Alex.
Well, if there are no other comments or questions from commission, we will call our meeting adjourned. Whoops.
No, we're unlikely to meet next month.
Yes.
We don't have anything on the agenda that would be coming to you for June. So at this time, we will tell you we would not have a June meeting. Or?
Yeah, we'll officially let you know by the end of next week. But at this time, we don't have anything. So unless that would change for some reason, it's also my birthday that day. So,
and I'll be out of town.
Well, we should still all do
I'll remind myself when mine comes. Okay, now we're really adjourned.
And Jeff, it's good